another concept that I feel like is really important to discuss before we get started reading Pride and Prejudice is that of money. Because money plays a central role to the plot in Pride and Prejudice. So, because of the entail, which is the condition that the estate, the Bennet estate, can only pass to the closest living male relative. It can't pass to the females. The Bennet women are looking at a really bleak financial future after Mr. Bennet dies. And the sooner we recognize that, the sooner like Mrs. Bennet's pursuit of husbands kind of starts making a little sense. It's a little annoying and like over the top when we first start reading it, but understanding that this situation, that they're entitled to a very bleak future if something doesn't happen. So this pursuit of husbands kind of takes on a sense of urgency that kind of supersedes or rises above the whole foolish behavior of her on occasion, the father, Mr. Bennet, and obviously the three younger sisters who are always throwing themselves in the way of men. So translating the monetary realities that these characters are facing into kind of modern equivalents kind of helps us better understand the characters' motivations and the significance of their action. So Austen describes people's financial situations throughout Pride and Prejudice in terms of actual money amounts. She uses the pound, and Darcy is not simply rich. He has 10,000 pounds a year. When Elizabeth's father dies, she will not only be poor, she will have a mere 40 pounds a year. But what do those figures mean in today's term in modern US dollars? And so critic Edward Copeland kind of calculated the value of £1 in Austen's day to be roughly equivalent to about $80 US dollars today. And so he kind of gives the disclaimer that his estimate is not scientific and it's probably conservative. So it could be higher or lower, but this at least kind of helps us put these financial figures into some kind of perspective. So when we first meet the Bennet family, we find out that Mr. Bennet has 2,000 pounds a year. And in today's term, that means he's about worth 160,000 pounds or $60,000 a year if we're looking at that. And now they're middle class. They are not upper class. I know that number seems very large, but when you start looking at it, when you start breaking it down, when he dies upon their father's death, the five sisters, Jane, Elizabeth, Lydia, Kitty, and Mary, will all inherit only 40 to 50 pounds a piece, which is only $3,200 to $4,000 a year. And I think that that's really kind of like dire. If you think about it, especially like in today's term, there's no one that could live off of that for a year. I would be hard pressed to say that people could not live 2 months off of that money. I guess in a pinch. You could, but it's definitely, with the cost of living the way that it is, it's definitely not going to stretch very far at all. So thinking about that in terms of, they need to find some husbands who have some money that can financially take care of them, because that is a very bleak future for them. Okay, so Mr. Wickham, who they're going to meet a little later, I'm just kind of doing these in order of financial like relevance, like lowest to highest. So Mr. Wickham is somebody they're going to meet, and he is going to have 450 pounds a year, which is about $36,000. Mr. Bingley, the next door neighbor that moves in, that Mrs. Bennet is trying very hard to hook one of the daughters up with, is worth about 5,000 pounds a year, which is about $400K. And then Mr. Darcy, who's Mr. Bingley's friend, is worth $10K a year, which it kind of averages out to be about $800,000 per year. So keeping those facts and figures in mind, we're ready to start reading Pride and Prejudice, and we're going to keep that money matters at kind of at the forefront of our thoughts as we read our story.